Hi, everybody. This is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your horoscopes for the month of June 2019. So this is the Sun and Rising sign horoscope for Aquarians. Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Rising. I always prefer the rising sign because it will end up configuring with the way that your birth chart looks, but it's up to you. At any rate, let's take a look. I'm going to try to do this in under 5 minutes. I'm doing all of my horoscopes this month in under 5 minutes. Hopefully, because I had a big astrology conference last month. A lot of my time and energy went into preparing for that. So these are coming in sort of under the wire. But thankfully, there's two major transits that are playing a huge role this month in everybody's horoscope. So it's pretty easy to organize everything. Those two transits are the opposition of Mars in Cancer to Saturn and Pluto in your 12th house in Capricorn. And then a series of T-squares between Jupiter and Sagittarius, Neptune in Pisces, and a bunch of planets moving through Gemini through the 11th, 2nd, and 5th houses. So those are the two things we're going to talk about. Now, the big news is really the oppositions from Mars to Saturn and Pluto in your 12th house from the 6th in Cancer. Mars is in its fall here in Cancer, very difficult place. However, it is in the house of its joy. The transit will happen between the 13th and 21st of the month, and it's going to be the kind of transit that can spring up on us and appear suddenly as a kind of emotional outburst, or as a moment where we're feeling more vulnerable and defensive, or more vulnerable and aggressive, or potentially where there is some need to sever or cut ties or cords, emotional attachments that are no longer healthy. And the 6th and 12th houses especially, these are two houses that have a lot to do with more difficult periods, like little interludes in our life that come and go. We all have them, that are just a little bit more challenging. Obstacles come up, we get a cold, whatever. There's just a patch of difficulties. That's a 6th, 12th house kind of transit. Now, Mars's opposition from the 6th to the 12th, you want to be really careful of basically exhausting yourself or draining yourself emotionally, kind of fighting a fight that's not really yours to fight, or getting involved in different kinds of emotionally taxing work and not taking enough of a break. You really want to be careful of, mindful of your energy and mindful of your connections between your mind, body, emotional body. Pay close attention to these things this month, because that Mars in Cancer, when it opposes Saturn and Pluto right around the summer solstice with Mercury, can really create some mental and emotional instability, or could have you working through conflicts with other people that are probably not going to be light. I mean, they may be transformational and healing, but intense. So that's the beware of all of this. The other thing is that these houses and these planets can indicate some desire to help or stick up for, advocate, fight on behalf of someone or something, an issue or a cause or a person that is struggling or suffering. However, it could also be very taxing or draining, so you want to be careful not sort of becoming a martyr. But this has the feeling of kind of activism and advocacy, especially around the topics of things like family, women, children, women's health. Those are things that can be a really big deal this month with Mars in the sign of the moon, the goddess, the god of war in the sign of the moon. That's why it's a little difficult, opposing Saturn and Pluto in the 12th house, which is not an easy house. You also want to be careful of just self-destructiveness because of sort of emotional and mental volatility. So really take care of yourself this month. The other thing that is really important this month are these T-squares. So they're being made by a bunch of planets transiting through Gemini, activating opposition to Jupiter in Sagittarius and a square to Neptune in Pisces. So first one is June 3rd, new moon in Gemini. Next one is between the 9th and 10th of the month. You're going to see the sun activating the opposition to Jupiter and the square to Neptune. And then around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, right in there, Venus in Gemini will also reactivate it. Somewhere in between there, you've got a full moon on June 17th in Sagittarius that'll also activate it. So from the beginning of the month all the way again through the summer solstice, it's a T-square party, right? Just one after the other. What does this T-square mean? Well, the 5th house is where the kind of cycle of this moon cycle is beginning. That's a house that has a lot to do with children, pregnancy, but also creativity and the arts. It has a lot to do with sometimes it's related to the assets, wealth, or resources of family or parents. It is also a house that can just generally relate to the need for joy and happiness, spontaneity, fun. So something important is taking place. Some kind of development is happening in that house. Any of those themes could be up for grabs. Then the opposition is happening from the 5th house to the 11th house. You're activating this idea of the 11th house themes, which are going to be about friends, groups, allies, benefactors, your social circles. So it's possible that there are some really healthy and interesting, for example, it would not be uncommon to see somebody, to see a person joining a new group or finding a new group of friends, or finding unexpected benefits from colleagues or coworkers. This looks like a really good series of T-squares, a lot of Jupiter, Neptune. There's a lot of kind of faith and vision and imagination and sort of blessings, and a lot of sort of creativity and joy. So it looks like, almost like you could see like a windfall coming through, or a new stream of revenue, or a new creative collaboration, or new associates or friends of somehow benefits with Jupiter so prominent, right? But Jupiter, Neptune is sometimes about getting ahead at any cost. For example, Jupiter, Neptune is sometimes associated with taking steroids, right? Like trying to get all jacked up, but doing so in a way that's like cheating or illegal or hard on the body. And then there's the illusion of being something great that's really caused by a drug. That's very Jupiter, Neptune. Same thing can be a part of this month. A lot of joy, a lot of pleasure, maybe even sort of living the high life, getting high on what's happening around you. But there could be, just stay grounded, because some level of deception or, grandiosity or indulgence could be a part of this month's T-square, and that can have negative effects over the long course. So you just want to be really honest with yourself. And there may be something of, the Sagittarius Gemini axis with Neptune can also be about something of a philosophical or ideological crossroads that you're at, maybe among friends, or with regard to, what you should do going forward, or how you should spend your resources, or questions about, what do I want to do with my life, and evaluating your needs and most important values, and how you're making, how do you make that choice? And Neptune can provide a little confusion in the second house. Like, well, I think this is what I really value, but maybe I'm really unsure. Maybe there's some confusion. So it becomes hard to make a choice about where to invest your time, money, energy, resources, who to call your people, what to do. Sometimes good things fall in our lap, and we're like, wow, this seems really good. But then it's like, well, now I got to know what am I going to do with this, right? And that can cause a deeper kind of philosophical conflict within us. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing. I think I'm going over 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop now. I hope that this was interesting, and it gives you some good things to consider for the month of June. We'll be back for eclipse season next month, and those eclipses are happening across Cancer and Capricorn. So the Mars-Pluto theme is really in some ways just foreshadowing a deeper series of changes coming through those houses. It's not an ideal, perfect, easy time for Aquarians. But things, because you're Aquarians, you got that 12th, 6th house axis of eclipses. Those are difficult rounds of eclipses usually. It's about a time of destabilizing what's familiar, starting something new, but, kind of having to live through the liminal space of like, okay, well, things are difficult. I know they're going to change, or I know they're going to get better, but I'm kind of slogging through it in the meantime. So stick with it. Around the 21st, the sun will enter Cancer. That should start to lighten things up a little bit, because the 6th house Cancer sun should start to bring in a more tender, healing kind of energy. All right, that's what I've got for you, Aquarians. Take care. Let me know how things go. We'll see you next month. Bye.